I know you're gonna dig this.
Welcome to the End Zone Club, where we have conversations that are designed to push you from walking in potential to fulfilling your purpose. And introducing our host, Anthony Mitchell. What's up, beautiful people? It's your host of the End Zone Club, Anthony Mitchell, where we have conversations that are wrapped around things we know now. We wish we knew when we were younger. And of course, the purpose of these conversations is to push you from walking in your potential to actually fulfilling your purpose. And before I even get into today's content, I'd like to encourage you to rate, like, share, subscribe to the content. As always, help us to get out to the four corners of the world. And also, if you don't mind, in the bio, there's a link that you can follow where it allows you to even donate to this platform. With that said, guys, hello. I know it's been a while since I've had an opportunity of just being able to talk to you guys, as I always love doing, interacting with my family here at the End Zone Club podcast. And I do have to be a little honest with you guys. In my mind, wait a minute, before I even go to this part, let me rewind a little bit, because some of you that actually listen to the content know that I have been out of pocket for the past few months with military obligations, meaning I am deployed to an unknown location. For security purposes, I will not say. But during this time of being away, I think I've had a lot of time to spend with self-evaluation. And I promise you, one thing I understand more and more now is that when you are away from your support system, which your support system is what gives you strength, it's what gives you stability, it's what helps you, it's what aids you in your day-to-day, that helps you to be you. Whether or not we know it, each of us do have some sense of support system. Some of our friends provide us that, some of our spouses, some of our family members, or sometimes it's just a conglomerate of your daily schedule routine that you get used to that allows you to settle in to who you are and who you'll be. Sometimes when that's taken away from you and change happens, it allows you an opportunity to reevaluate everything that your hand is touching, albeit good, your friendships. When you're away and you don't hear from your friends and your friends aren't reaching out to you, it kind of puts you in a different headspace of reevaluation as far as your friendships. Back when my parents were in the military, my mother was deployed back in the early 90s to Desert Storm. If you guys get an opportunity to, especially you newbies that don't know much about the various presidential, just their times, things that happen, major events that happened in the 90s. Desert Storm, Operation Desert Shield, we had some things going on out here in the Middle East that my mother was a part of. And I remember one of the things that she talked about when she came back was how it hurt her feelings that she didn't get the level of communication, albeit with us, we didn't have social media. For us, there were no emails. Everything was snail mail. So you had to sit down and write letters, put letters in envelopes, lick the envelope, close it up, put a stamp, ship it out. That's how things were. And of course, her being miles away, different time zone, all of that stuff, 8 hours ahead, time-wise. It took a while for mail to get there. I do remember, one of the things our class was big on back in the 80s and 90s was we had pen pals. That's when, schools would partake in these projects where they would pick various schools, that whether it's Japan, Philippines, whatever, and out of that class, you would find a friend, You'd write them and you tell them all about America. You tell them about yourself, and you would try to establish friendships. That was something they did for us that helped us to develop our literary skills and just made us efficient in understanding that there was a great big world outside of our window. So when my mother was deployed, I thought we were writing more letters than what we were, but some of the people that she was surrounded by was getting letters every day. Us, maybe it wasn't every day. Maybe it was once a month, which in the second grade, trying to find that much to talk about, honestly, is especially for a guy. I was not as loquacious as my sister. I'd rather be watching Ninja Turtles or outside playing with my friends. So writing a letter every day, every week, that was not a labor of love I was able to just to commit to in the second grade, right? But fast forwarding, one of the reasons I brought that up is that she talked about how her feelings were hurt and how important communication was, because you're kind of on this island by yourself, people you don't know, you're merging with, there are a lot of times you're putting this hot tank where you're having to basically do tasks with people maybe you don't know. Maybe you guys are completely different. You talk different, you eat different foods, listen to different music. There is a lot of challenges that comes into merging, uniting to make a mission happen. So now fast forward 30 plus years later, now I am in the same boat. However, thankfully, we have social media now. We have cell phones. We have emails. There are so many more avenues for us to stay in contact with each other that the excuse of not hearing from some of your friends, some of your family, some of your church people, it's a challenge. And it's something that during this time you reevaluate, because life is not intended for anybody to succeed on their own. You have to be surrounded by the right people. And why this is important to me is because every time I'm in a position where I'm reevaluating life, and that's for myself and my family, and you're spending time in prayer and you're asking God, what direction do I need to go? Or sometimes you're just being honest with yourself. Maybe you felt like, you know what? I thought at this point in life, maybe I'd be a little further. Or sometimes you start having an inclination to want to do more financially. Sometimes you're wanting to launch some new creative ideas in some different areas, or maybe something that you're a part of, whether it's a hobby, a talent, or just the God gift that God has given you. You want to fine tune it where it's becoming more effective in producing the kind of results you want. And when you're not getting those results, there should be a point of you're mentally or intellectually, emotionally attached enough to what you're doing that you have a sense of awareness. And that awareness is like, well, what can I do differently? Or what are some areas maybe I need to prune back on? So when you start taking evaluation, like I have, of what I'm not getting from people that I always have back at home, I promise you it's an eye-opening experience, but it's a worthwhile experience, because a lot of military personnel, especially when they're deployed away from families, there are certain walls that you can hit. And that wall can kind of be like, and I'm taking this somewhere, people that anytime people are isolated from what they're used to, whether it's pastorships, whether it's, and this is a very integral part of life. People that go through jail, people that go through extended periods of maybe education abroad or away from home where they grew up at. Maybe it's athletes that, you're trying to get on with this opportunity with a team that's far from where you're at. Maybe your family now that's always been part of your rock and your support system, maybe they're not there. So now you're having to reform, regroup, strengthen yourself from within. And it's a challenge. It's a challenge to your resolve. It's a challenge to your intestinal fortitude, because sometimes when you're having to draw that sort of strength from yourself, that, man, I got to get it, I can't depend on anybody else, it brings a different level of resolve. So in my moment of being away, I've been very thankful for my family, but I've really reevaluated a lot of my friendships. And I think it's good to be here because you start realizing who really loves you. You start realizing who's really connected to you. You start realizing that pecking order that you actually have in people's lives. And one of the reasons this is important, especially for you young people, a lot of your life is very contingent upon your social interactions. I know a lot of young people, especially from my time as a mentor, they'll spend so much energy trying to be liked, accepted, or really part of a lot of cliques. They're part of these circles. They're wanting to really be loved and accepted. And as you get older, that need for being a part of the good boy club is not as important when you are working on said self. That's why even through your times of just worship and prayer, it's great to realize that the word of God is a mirror and it'll show you things if you let it. And I've begun to just see in my life that, you know what, I've been spending a lot of time trying to invest in friendships with some people, invest in even some of the youth things that I do. I have worked with some people that will not wish me happy birthday, will not wish me Merry Christmas or Happy Father's Day. Well, shout out to all the fathers. I'm on the other side of Father's Day, but hey, happy belated Father Days to you guys. Let's get back to that in a moment. I'm just having a moment of just transparency. I'm actually in a very great mood. Everything is going great for me. Family's healthy, his wife healthy, kids are healthy. But I bring this up especially for you young people. Never get so boxed in a friendship. Never get so boxed in a relationship that, first of all, it negates your needs as an individual. All of us have something that we should be getting from the friendships we're in. If you are part of any kind of interaction, whether it's a job, whether it's a partnership, whether it's a business, whatever it is, once you get to that point where you're finding things not growing, evaluate. See where you fit in to what you've become a part of. I promise you, I've seen this. Things that have started off as great original ideas, give it time. Sometimes what you can produce or what you've created can grow such organically that you're no longer even a part of it and you don't even see what has happened. So always evaluate what you're part of. I've seen a lot of marriages that have fallen apart because after that I do stage, maybe one individual is growing. Maybe one individual has still been able to pursue interests and go after career goals and is staying up late at night, investing in their education, staying up late at night, reading books, is finding time to get on the internet and find articles that are to their liking and that are sharpening them in their vocabulary and all of their interest. And maybe they surrounded themselves with people who are going in the same direction they're going in. And as they're growing, there's significant other maybe is not. Maybe whatever they were doing when they found them, that's the routine they've stuck to. And over time, they find themselves growing apart. Sometimes you have to evaluate and have these honest conversations with yourself as you do those around you, because sometimes if you have some loose ends in your life, sometimes you have to pray for God to replace the dead friendships, the dead relationships, the dead connections with more lively ones, with things that are more self-serving to where God can take you in life and where he wants to take you, and you'll find yourself growing. I think about one of my favorite Bible stories being that of Samson for many different reasons, because unlike most of the leaders throughout the Bible, Samson never to me had an air of being better than you. He was strong, but he was a man of the people. He was more relatable when you look at his shortcomings and his fallings to many men, which helps you to understand his rise, his fall, and ultimately God giving him retribution for all he had been through. Those are important stories to me. But let's move forward with it. Samson found himself going from one bad relationship to another. Probably should have took a little time to evaluate what in my life is attracting these kinds of things, these kinds of people, these kinds of situations where, you know what, I'm having to be a little bit crazy. I'm out here burning people's forests down and all of these things just out of crimes of passion. He was connected in some of the wrong areas. So just this time away has been a time of reflection, a time of evaluation, a time of, me growing older. It's just like, man, I can't. Yeah, I got to step out of this one. This one isn't for me. Or this one, man, I really appreciate you. Let me let you know how much I love you. And I appreciate our friendship, our brotherhood. I thank God for all of those people that while I have been out have made it their priority to just ask a simple question. Do you need anything? Just that one statement alone has been wow. But just even during this time of evaluation, something else I was even looking at, I was like, hey, I really enjoy doing a podcast. But my podcast is nowhere close to being syndicated, or it's nowhere close to being recognized as even being a great podcast. It's been a hobby that I've enjoyed doing, but it hadn't really taken off like I wanted it to. So for myself, I'm like, maybe this isn't the gift of God on my life that he has intended. And I'm fine with that. So I was like, let's step away from podcasting for a minute and see, does anybody even notice? And to my surprise, someone posted on one of my social media formats recently, like, man, I can't wait for you to get back and start back podcasting again. I said, you know what? That's somebody that's invested, that's actually paying attention. And it's a really, it's an exciting moment when things like that happen, because after you've actually been thinking about something like this, like, I'm not doing this again. I'm done. Or you've been praying about something, and then you see that random answer just coming from maybe a place you didn't see it coming. Oh, wow. But anyway, earlier on, I was just talking about Father's Day being on the tail end of it. Do you know Father's Day is probably, of all the random made up holidays even included, that we tend to celebrate every day? Because, guys, let's just be honest. We have so many days. Every day somebody's like, oh, today is national siblings that have left hands, that are left-handed but hop off the right foot day. Today is buy your dog an ice cream cone day. Or yesterday was groundhogs that bark after 6 p.m. day. I mean, there are random days for everything now. And Father's Day feels to me like it's at the lowest end of all the totem poles. Now, y'all may disagree with me, but we don't do fathers right on Father's Day. And I was telling some young men just yesterday, Father's Day in the pantheon of days is probably the least respected, but many men can relate to this. A lot of us that understand the responsibility that God has on our plate, it's not even dictated by your financial status, but I know a lot of men that carry a lot of weight, even if they're not the biggest breadwinners in their home, just that innate sense of being protector, being a provider, being all the things a father is. I know every role is different in every home, but at the core, a father who cares goes to bed often carrying weight that a lot of people don't know he carries. He has responsibility. He has a sense of commitment to all of his situation to make not only just his home life better, but everywhere he is at. A real father, a real man, is going to feel a sense of belonging, and he's going to want to make every situation around him better. So if he's got kids, he's got a responsibility to them to be the best example he can be through his shortcomings, through his shortfalls, through what he is able to bring to the table and what he's not. He feels a sense of shortcoming in that. We men know that in a perfect environment, all of us would have financially more than enough, emotionally more than enough, psychologically more than enough to offer everything we're a part of. But sometimes you got to be careful that we sometimes become so encumbered about with the provision part, the financial, that sometimes it starts taking away from our emotional. Sometimes you can physically give so much at your job or your creative idea or your business ventures that sometimes at home you don't have that same energy for your wife or your girlfriend, your kids, those sorts of things. But with all of our shortcomings, I think we should still be applauded for taking the responsibility on of doing what God intended for us to do. Some people may say, well, I think that's what you were supposed to do. But I promise you, the foxhole that men live in, if you knew the kinds of bullets that come at us that we take first so that it doesn't come to our families, we would probably get more than a pair of socks and a tie. So, man, I love you guys. I appreciate you. I honor you for your sacrifice. I honor you for the seeds that you have sown, the water that you have put on those seeds, the fertilizer that you've given them, all the positioning you've placed those in around you to succeed, sometimes putting everybody else before you. I appreciate you guys for that. And my prayers is with you guys that for all of the good that you're doing, you be recognized more for the good you've done than for the bad that has people would like to attach to your name, whatever weakness, whatever that may be. I just pray that God has his favor shining on your life and that outside of that, nothing else matters. So with that said, people, hey, this is another episode of the End Zone Club podcast. I appreciate you guys for being here with us. Again, like, share, rate, subscribe, put this content out. If you can, even give me a 5-star rating. The more ratings that I get, the more people tapping on and interacting, hey, just the more we can do. And I tell you what, you guys keep blowing up my emails like you have. I've got several of you now that have reached out, want to be a guest on the show. When I get back home, your time will come. We'll get on. We'll get some guests back on here. We'll get rolling into this next season. But if you've got nothing else, my prayer for you guys is just that you surround yourself with the right people. Be a part of the best cliques you can. Allow God to place people in your life that's going to sharpen you, bring the most out of you, but most importantly, have enough concern for you that they're actually invested in you. Don't compromise that, guys. You deserve more than that. You deserve better. So when I get back, hey, some of you guys, that even some of my friends, air quotes, that are listening to this podcast, I mean, don't be offended if we don't really relate anymore. I mean, it's just the luck of the draw. But I love you. Be blessed.